everyone, my name's Molly and I'm back with another video. Today we're going to be discussing how to take cinematic video on a GoPro. On the GoPro website and on like the YouTube channels and the Instagram, they have the GoPro footage looks really good, and then I always find that when I try and take it myself it doesn't look so good. So I found sort of the perfect settings and how I edit them. I'm going to be showing you guys that today so you can take really cinematic videos on your GoPro. Let's get into it. So to check what settings you've got, obviously it shows some up here, but you're just going to slide the screen. These are what I use, so if you like what my videos look like, you can just take these settings and use them for yourself. Okay, so then you will have your actual GoPro screen and it will say like the resolution, frames per second, all of those. I always use narrow or linear just because I don't like the fisheye look as much for cinematic. Right now it's set to 30 frames per second. To be honest, I swap through these depending on what I'm filming. If I want to film slow motion, obviously I go for a higher frames per second, so like 120, 240 if I can. I'm going to keep it for 30 for the moment. So then for my resolution, I've got set to 1080. Honestly, I export in 1080. I might set it up, but depending on what I'm working on, I usually do stay with 1080. It's just quicker. Obviously, you can set it for a high resolution if you want it, or lower. So there are my settings. I have my GoPro set to. So the next thing I want to discuss with you guys is the equipment I'm going to be using today to film my cinematic video on my GoPro. So the first thing I wanted to discuss with you is the gimbal. I occasionally use this when I really want something to be really steady, and it's really great. It does make your footage look a lot more smooth, a lot more professional, a lot more cinematic, so I do recommend. A great thing with the GoPro and a gimbal as well is you can get a smaller one. So this is one designed for a phone, I think. And because the GoPro is so small, it fits in fine, so you don't have to get like a really expensive one like you would if you needed it for a camera, because obviously you need it to be bigger than just the phone one. I will link some gimbals down below, so if you do want to purchase one, they'll all be there. Another great tool, which I think is great if you're just getting started, you don't really want to invest money into a gimbal, is just like this little stick thing. It came on my audio recorder and I just screw it on to my GoPro case like so, and this just gives you an extra thing to grip onto to be able to hold it and really try and make it really still. It's easier than just holding the GoPro because it just gives you more control. I really recommend this. It's great, it's really quick. You just pull it out, have your GoPro already set up in there, and you can just take footage and it will look a lot more stable and cinematic. So now I think we're ready to go out into the garden and get filming, and then we'll come back into the studio and I will show you how I do all the post-production, how I colour grade it, all of that. So let's get outside. Right, so I am now out in the foresty sort of area in my garden, and basically I've got my GoPro here and I'm just going to use the actual stick just to show you what you can get without any fancy equipment and stuff. And I'm basically just going to take a few shots. So now I'm back in the studio and we're going to look through our footage and do a bit of editing. Okay, so I first off want to show you how bad the GoPro footage actually looks before editing. How like shaky, how bad the colouring is, sort of thing. So there's that one. That's actually not bad for colouring. But say stuff like this, the colouring just really isn't it. So let's make a new Premiere Pro project by pressing new project and then title it. So I'm going to name it GoPro video. That's great, GoPro video, that's what it's been called. So now you should have an open project to import your video from. So to import the video, just go into the folder it's in. I just grab it and drop it in. It's just easier. You can import it from here, but it's just quicker for me. So I'm just going to show you a few things on a few clips rather than editing the whole video and you just watching. It'll be boring. So I'm going to grab, actually yeah, maybe this clip to begin with. So this was my first clip. I'm just going to cut it to where I want. So if you go up to the top, yours might not be in the same position as mine, but I'm going to my effects panel. I'm just going to type in stabilization, and then you'll see this warp stabilization. Grab warp stabilizer, drag it over, and it's going to analyze. So if you go into effects controls, and it tells you how fast it's doing it. Now with this stabilizer, sometimes it distorts the image and it's rubbish. Occasionally it does that, so it's not 100%. So I would try and get your actual video as stable as possible. This is sort of as a last resort in post. So let's have a look at that. See, you see that distortion right there, just a little. That's alright. By the way, I've got it, if it goes blurry when I'm playing it back, it's because I've got it set to 1/4. You can change it to half or full, but I just keep it like that because it saves power on the laptop. Okay, so now the colour is honestly one of the things I like least about GoPro. The colour is awful. So what I do, I go down here to new item, adjustment layer, okay, and then I just drag that over the top. Now I always edit the colour onto the adjustment layer so I can just drag it over all of them rather than copy and pasting it. Obviously if you only wanted it on selected clips, that's probably an easier way of doing it, but I want it on all my clips. So I go down to this tab here, and then here is where you can basically edit all the colour. So I'm going to add a bit of temperature, make it look a bit warmer, a bit more contrast, that's always nice. I'm going to turn highlights down just a bit, maybe a bit less than that. Shadows also I'm going to turn down a bit. And blacks I do turn up quite a bit usually. And then saturation if you want it to look a bit more saturated, like so. So I usually bring in another adjustment layer over the top of that. Then go up to the effects tab again, and I look up sharp. So you're going to want to grab this here where it says sharpen, drag that on to the adjustment layer, go down and sharpen amount. I usually put about 20. Honestly, this doesn't look too bad, but it just adds a bit. The GoPro sharpness is awful in the actual GoPro settings, wherever it is. So that's why I do it in post. It's just a lot better. So there's that. Let's play that. Already that looks so much better than the first clip. Actually, let's just copy this, and I'm going to play you the two clips next to each other and just have a look at how much better the quality is after we've just done those simple things. So that's the edits, and that's without the edits. As you can see, that is a massive difference and will make your clips look so much more cinematic. So this was video 1, and I think I'm going to make this into 2 videos on more in-depth editing. This sort of gives you an insight into it, but honestly I think it's going to be way too long of a video. I'm going to bore you all way too much. I'm going to make it into a part 2 another day, and I will upload it to the channel, and when it is uploaded I will put a link in the description. So if it's not there, I haven't made it yet, but it will be there eventually, just because this gives you an insight onto what you can do, how much better you can make just by doing simple things, sharpening and colour grading, and it makes it look so much more cinematic. And I will get into the editing way more in depth in my next video. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you learned something, because honestly, without editing and adding these effects onto your GoPro footage, it doesn't look great. And that's my biggest problem with GoPro. But once you've done this, it can actually look really cinematic and really cool. Like the GoPro clips you see on the website and you think that wasn't filmed on a GoPro because it looks so good. And then you go out and film and it doesn't look as good. So I hope you learned something. I hope this gave you a bit of info, and I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Bye!